Hello YouTube, welcome to the fake Merc character study part 11. And I have something very exciting for you guys today because I have a direct new cargaison of ments for you guys, fresh from the press, because I have found a way to get direct access to Bloho's private messages. So this is something that is pretty much unexpected. I didn't think I would get access to that so early and at such a high level of espionage, and it's going to give us direct access, as I said, to a lot of things, because if you think that Bloho is smug behind closed doors, you don't know even the half of it. The amount of stuff he spewed on his private pages where he thinks that he's completely invisible and protected is insane, and I have a stack of it that I'm going to distribute to you guys in these episodes. But I'm going to take it slow for two reasons. One, because I don't want you to overdose on ments, and two, because I want to keep Bloho guessing. I know that he is watching these videos, and that's the reason why I'm not telling you exactly which platforms and which private groups I have access to, and also I don't reveal how I have access to them, because I know it's going to make him very anxious. So Jason, hi, I know you're watching this. Try and guess how I got access to all of that. And keep in mind that with every passing week, I get access to more and more stuff. Eventually, one day I'm going to reveal how I did that, and all of the screenshots that I accumulated, I will post and make public so I can back up what I'm going to reveal to you guys today. But for now, I keep it protected because there is a small chance that if he actually figures it out, he's going to be able to cut access, and I'm not going to be able to actually gather all of that information and give it to you guys. So, that aside, I'm going to refer back to these ments very soon. I just have one thing to say. Very recently, Jason made a video on his channel directly directed towards me, besides the fact that he didn't actually put my name in his title because he's too much of a little bitch to do that. And the title of the video was something like people who train for size but really have like a deep lust for strength, blah blah blah. It's the original cope of Bloho who's trying to reverse the script because he is obsessed with size and his true love is in bodybuilding, and he's trying to pretend that he's actually a strength athlete, and therefore he's trying to pretend that bodybuilders in reality don't like the sport and they really want to be strong, which I personally don't care about strength. I've said that multiple times, but he doesn't stop him from trying to pretend that it is the case. And the funniest thing is that in this very video, there is one comment that is making fun of him. Because of course in the video, he had the usual lies of saying that women don't care about looks, to excuse the fact that he looks terrible and that no woman would even want to come close to him in public. And therefore he's trying to pretend that in reality, you have to be strong and you have to be funny, and that makes you an alpha that gets all of the girls, which of course is complete BS. Looks are very important, and then your personality is going to also help. But he has neither of these. So he has to pretend that being able to bench 2 plates is going to somehow make the ladies wet. So he did that, and then the combo, as I said, is that in the comments someone made fun of him and said, oh, look at Bloho trying to be big to impress guys. Typical stuff, typical trolling. The type of stuff that he usually deletes. But in this case, he didn't. And underneath, he actually answered to that person, which he almost never does, and he claimed that that was me. He claimed that it was a sock account that I created to make fun of him on his page, which sort of, you know, it actually matches, it makes sense because he's banned me from commenting on his page. And so, since the name of the guy was, and I quote, Anime Boy Titty, which is the exquisite name that this person has chosen for their account, he figured out it was me, which also reveals that he does indeed watch my channel and my videos, because if he didn't, how would he know that I like anime? That doesn't really compute. Funniest thing being that in this very comment, he claimed that he's never watched my stuff, but that he somehow heard from the grapevine that I'm obsessed with him. Which, by the way, is an excuse and an argument that I hear his fanboys use a lot, that I'm obsessed, which ties directly to his homophobia, because the implication is that I'm in love. Like, I'm in love with Bloho and I'm trying to catch his attention, which has been done in the past. I mean, the Stoobs tried to do that to eventually capture Bloho in some dark alley and do God knows what with him and his mangled corpse, but it's not what happened in my case. I do that because I despise him and I want him gone, that's it. But of course, again, with the inversion, he himself is deeply closeted, and I've talked about that in the past. And therefore, every single time he has beef with someone, he pretends that the person is gay for him. As for the gay stuff, as I said before, nothing wrong about being gay. There is something wrong about bashing gays when you yourself are in the closet, however. And with Bloho, there is a lot of stuff that is coming out about his sexuality that I'm not going to be talking about today, but it is on my radar, and I'm actively using my infiltration powers to gather direct information from him. So don't worry about that, guys. I'm going to be talking about that. So that's the one thing that he did to feel better, because from what I know from his private messages, episode 10 actually did a number on him. And because in that episode, I mentioned the fact that he uses fake plates, which was confirmed in the messages. He is a fake powerlifter, which really upset him apparently, all of which I'm going to eventually post screenshots of. As for the fake plates, as I said, they're confirmed 10 times over. The blue plates are fake. Again, from the private messages that I think I'm going to reveal later, because as I said, one, I need to be patient with those mens because they're quite precious. And two, I want to give as little information to Bloho as possible to keep him squirming a little bit and make him anxious. So that's the one thing. I'm now going to directly go into today's mens, but as promised, I will be referring back to the private messages that I gathered, because some of them are actually quite juicy and I want to give them to you guys. Before we go in, I'm actually going to give a few to you. So first off, the clients. I said in episode 9 that I was certain he had no clients, and it was confirmed. He doesn't. And I have a proof of this because on his Facebook, he posted a direct message that was on the public, and then the message was pretty much like a call out for clients, like a check-in pretty much, that included the idea that the messages would be then sent directly to him via private means to keep the client's identity intact. And guess what? On the private surface and platform, there was no answer. So either he's a complete idiot and he doesn't know how to use the internet, or he just posted that on his Facebook, his public Facebook, to pretend that he has so many clients that are going to check in, because in the post he says, oh, I'm doing my taxes and I'm overwhelmed, so please reach out to me using private means and I'm going to get back to you, but no one did. So it was just a front. Same for the post and the videos he makes where he says, oh, there are 2 spots open for this month. This is marketing 101. You create demand. If the demand doesn't exist, you create it by inflating the need for the product. Because if I tell you, hey, I have 100 coconuts and I need to sell them all, please buy a coconut, you're going to say no. If I tell you, hey, I only have 2 coconuts left, I sold 98 and I just have 2 left, do you want them? You're going to say yes, because one, there is scarcity now, and two, I am proving to you that I'm a good merchant, so you're going to purchase my product. He's trying to do that. From what I know and the confirmation I've had, there is no such thing, it's not working at all. And if it were, then I would want to see the proof, because again, I said in episode 9 that the video he posted about all of those people lifting that he pretended to be his clients was bogus, and I actually confirmed that. As I said, a lot of these videos were recorded vertically, which meant that there was a strong chance they were from Facebook. I couldn't trace them back onto YouTube, and lo and behold, I could find them on Facebook. And when I linked them to their owner and I reached out to the guy and I said, hey, are you being coughed by Bloho? They told me I don't even know who that is. So he basically went on private pages on Facebook, stole videos and pretended they were clients. And the proof is that none of these people under his videos and comments have actually claimed that he's coaching them. And the few that have, we don't have proof of payment, which, if we are doing a callback to the Lane Norton situation back in the days, during the pre-lawsuit era, Lane Norton actually challenged Bloho to a Skype, and the price and the payment was going to be, I think, 2 months' salary, and Bloho had no issues taking a screenshot of his bank account to get paid. Therefore, he has no issues providing proof of payment by his clients by actually blanking the names, but he won't do it because there is no such thing. So that's the first man that I got from his messages. The second is that, as I've said multiple times, he is deeply racist, and that racism is really developed and on full blast on his private pages because he regularly uses the N-word. Sometimes he censors it on platforms that would actually get his pages closed. sometimes he doesn't. He also referred several times to vegan gains as the N-word, which he's done in the past, but this time I have screenshots. He also gives dating advice to people on some of his private pages, dating advice that he's taking directly from Bill Burr. So he lacks personality so much that he actually just copy-pasted what a comedian has to say to make his audience laugh. But he takes it at face value, which shows that he has no awareness. And most of his posts, by the way, get from 2 to 7 likes. That's the public salary that Jason Bloho is. That's the audience and the draw that he has. 5 people on average. And the rest I will keep for later, but I'm going to reveal one thing, and maybe I will give it to you guys in a later episode. He posts rap lyrics, some of which that he actually invented. Meaning that I am telling to you right now that on the internet, at this instant, there is a rap song written by Bloho. How much money are you willing to give to have access to this? $8? Well, I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to be free. I'm going to reveal it eventually. I might even just copy it and read it to you on camera just for the laws, but it's going to have to wait because I have an episode dedicated to the inner city that Bloho seems to despise so much, and I'm going to actually plug that at that moment. For the rest, I have a lot more things that I want to unveil, but as I said, it's going to be little bit by little bit, just enough to make Bloho realize that yes, I have access to your private messages, and that yes, I'm going to have access to more and more of your stuff, because you don't know how to actually be secured on the internet, you fat idiot. Alright, so let's get to the actual mains of the day, some of which will be linked to the private messages. So today, we're going to talk about the Meniere's disease that Bloho claims, all of the illnesses that he's claimed to actually claim welfare on the back of the taxpayer, and more of his lies. So, he doesn't have Meniere's. I mean, at this point, it is clear and obvious to anyone with eyes. For the people who don't know what it is, Meniere's disease is pretty much a disability, I want to call it, that has a strong impact on your sense of balance, that can create some painful sensation in the inner ear, and in reality is really, really hard to diagnose. And it's the reason why it is a go-to for people who want to claim disability money and want to actually defraud the government, because a physician will have a tough time proving that you have it or that you don't have it, because it's really tough to escort, and therefore he actually went with it. And from what we know, because he also stated that on his public Facebook several times, it took him a long time, but he eventually was able to file and claim disability money, and he still finds and gets that money mailed to his house to this day, which explains his income and the reason why he can survive. But he doesn't have it, and in reality, it really goes to show that you can fool the welfare system like this, because he's lifting heavy weights. At this point, it is clear he doesn't have Meniere's. And his explanation for that I will cover later, but it should be disqualifying. It isn't, because for some reason I think there is a protector, a guardian angel somewhere that has decided that they want to make sure that Bloho lives as long as possible to provide the mens. I mean, it's commendable, it's great for us, but I don't think it's great for anyone who actually has to interact with that person in real life. But he has no shame in claiming that he has Meniere's, and in reality, every single time he does something or he wants to get out of something, he just claims Meniere's. Keep in mind that at the very start of that cope was that he was stuck in bed for so long that he became obese, and that's the reason why he's still fat to this day, according to him. And he claimed that it got so bad that he couldn't get out of bed, and therefore he was stuck in bed and couldn't walk. And his wife had to actually provide for him while he was just in bed. And guess what he was doing in bed? He was playing World of Warcraft 10 hours a day. His ex-wife actually testified that she would come home from working as a nurse, if I'm not mistaken, 8 hours a day to find this fat slob still playing World of Warcraft with his dirty dishes in the sink. And he would claim, oh, I had a bad bout of Meniere's, I couldn't clean anything. So she would break her back, literally, as a nurse, to come back to have to take care of an even bigger slug that wouldn't even do chores, even though he didn't even work. And he claimed, of course, because people pointed that out, after the interview with his ex-wife, he said, oh no, in reality, it was because I was grinding on World of Warcraft and selling the account afterwards for profit. Which, what? Have you even seen the scene of World of Warcraft account selling? It's dominated by the Chinese, and they work like crazy. You cannot compete with our prices. It's not possible. So that's nonsense. He also claimed to write papers for college students, even though he never graduated college. He barely made it out of high school, and he flunked out of community college. So what papers? If you look at him and the way he writes his comments on his own channel, and even his titles, there's always typos, there's always semantic errors. He doesn't even know how to write in English. Keep in mind that's his one and only language, and he's not even proficient at it. So what papers? I said it in the past, even primary school teachers would reject his papers. So that's the introduction to the Meniere's disease. He also claims to be deaf, and that's one that a lot of people don't know about. But he has a video that is still up back in the days where he claimed that he had bad deafness from when he was a child, and that actually his parents couldn't even realize that he was deaf because he became so proficient at reading lips, which again shows that he understands nothing about hospitals and about the medical institution in the US, because they test for deafness very early on because they need to figure it out early to prevent developmental issues with children who might not be able to hear what their parents are saying. So that's nonsense. And also, I mean, maybe that's true. His parents must be really shitty parents because you're supposed to realize that your kid is deaf. But he said that he was deaf, that he learned how to read lips, that he's still deaf to this day, and that when he's talking to people in reality, he hears one word out of two, and that he's forced to read people's lips, which was proven to be a big fat lie again, because when people got a hold of his phone number, which by the way, I have now as well, when they called him, when he was on the other side of the phone, he had no problem hearing, even though some of the guys who called used softwares to actually disguise their voices, which made it very hard to understand what they were saying, and he still heard them perfectly because they were accusing him of stuff that he was trying to defend himself from, and therefore, at that point, he had no problem. So unless he's able to somehow, teleport his mind like Netherbeast and see the lips of someone who's in a different continent, that's complete nonsense. And also, with Bloho, what's so funny is that I'm telling you, he's laying in bed at night, whatever garbage can he sleeps in, and I'm sure that his past lies must come back to him, and he realizes, oh no, this lie is going to be disproven very quickly because of X event. I need to cover it up. So he slaps on another lie, because very recently, because of the pandemic, people are wearing masks, and while you're wearing masks, you can see people's lips. So how is he supposed to actually function in an environment where he can't actually hear? Well, he doesn't, because one, he doesn't go outside, and two, he's a liar. He doesn't have Meniere's, he's not deaf. And I want you to keep in mind that these are very serious ailments. Being deaf is not funny. Being afflicted by Meniere's is a real plague, and he has no issues not only saying it on camera to excuse his failures at life, but also to get disability money. He is an actual leash. It is disgusting, the things that this guy has claimed. But it doesn't stop here, because he also claimed PTSD. And this is the one where I'm going to really step in, because all of the people who say, oh, the fake Merc stuff, it was in the past, he apologized for nothing. Okay, he never apologized for claiming to have PTSD. Do you know what PTSD does to a man? Do you know the life that you lead, the impact that you have on the people who love you? It's not funny, okay? And it's the reason why veterans turned on him so massively, is because it's not a laughing matter. But he turned it into one when he pretended to be a mercenary, and he said, oh, I have still PTSD from the guy, I blew out his brain and I still see it in my dreams. All of that to appear tough, because he truly has lived a pampered life. He has had no difficulties. He's been living life on easy mode, and he managed to fail. And therefore, he's trying to create that backstory that makes it more believable that he would be such a piece of shit now. But even then, with all of that is claimed, none of it matches up. And I'm also going to go back to a message that I caught that is laughable, but for the PTSD stuff, it was, I think, the breaking point and the reason why people turned on him, and the reason why, for anyone who defend him, you're defending that type of person. He's making fun of veterans. And again, he never apologized, but I will touch upon that later. So, he still tries to make it sound cool, because of course, when you claim, for example, that you have Meniere's, having Meniere's is not cool. It's not something that you can brag about. But his life is so devoid of value that he's desperately trying to hang on to anything that can actually make him look better. So he's claimed multiple times that he fought back Meniere's 10 times harder than anyone else on earth. That's a direct quote. And that his doctors were surprised that he was even able to function at all. Which, I mean, he doesn't have Meniere's, so of course he's able to function. Keep also in mind that that idiot was walking with a cane for years when he was living in the UK. Can you imagine that guy like a kingpin with his cane in the street? Insulting, again, people with a real handicap who need a cane to walk. The only thing he needed that cane for was to be able to actually maintain his fat ass on his feet, because he was so heavy that having a third leg was most likely the only thing that could actually get him from his house to the nearest McDonald's. So that's for the Meniere's. There's a plethora of claims that he actually tried to push forward. Like, for example, he said that if he's in a car and you crack the window, the wind pressure will be so intense and it will hurt his ears so much that he's most likely going to shoot you. Picture this. You're driving your fat, homeless, jobless friend, whose name is Jason Bloho, to the nearest, I don't know, again, Burger King, and you crack the window a tiny bit just to let out of some of the stench and be able to breathe, and you get shot in the back of the head. I mean, why does he think that it sounds cool? He has such a hard-on for just purely gratuitous violence. It's like he doesn't realize what he's saying. Why would you shoot someone? Can't you just say, can you just, turn the window up a little bit? But no, it doesn't sound cool enough. So that's that one thing that was also disproven immediately, because we have videos of him back in the days in his car driving with the windows cracked, and it doesn't seem to have impacted him at the time. So what's up? Is it just undulating Meniere's? Because that's something he claimed too. He claimed that the Meniere's, they come and go. Like the deafness, it comes and goes. He claimed to have undulating hearing. He also claimed to have undulating reading or something. Like sometimes he reads and he can read normally, and sometimes he's dyslexic. Like, it doesn't exist. Not only is he pretending to have conditions that he doesn't have, he's now inventing conditions to justify why he doesn't have them. Blows the human mind, to be honest. But that's what he claimed, again. And it's also a coup because he can't talk properly, as I said. He needs an excuse to explain why. There's no excuse. He's just uncultured and illiterate. And now we're going to get to a funny story, because I just presented the backstory of the Meniere's. Now I'm going to tell a story that he posted on what he thought was a private group. So, Bloho claims that 20 years ago, he worked in offshore drilling in the Gulf of Mexico, okay? So first off, picture that guy. Keep in mind that 20 years ago, from the timeline that we have, he was either obese, or a mercenary, or X. And X is this. Apparently he claimed that he was drilling oil offshore in the Gulf of Mexico, and that one day he was riding an helicopter from wherever he was stationed to the platform, which I'm not an expert, but with the cost of an helicopter ride and the amount of passengers you can have in one helicopter, it would be much cheaper to just have a boat simply just go by and drop the people directly at the platform instead of having an helicopter go back and forth. I mean, if anyone in the comment knows better, let me know, but that sounds like a lie to start with. And then within the lie, he of course had to make it sound cool, so he claimed that he was in an helicopter driven by a Vietnam veteran, headed towards a storm with an helicopter, and that when the tower control, whatever he claims, called them on the talkie-walkie, the pilot said, when he was told to actually turn back because the storm was too terrible, he said, "Negative, this is nothing, we're going to push through." this is a movie. This is a war movie. I mean, I'm pretty sure that for the people who have watched a ton of these, this is a direct quote from some piece of culture that I don't know about, that he pretends is his life. Issue is, so you're telling me that in a car with a cracked window, you get excruciating pain, but an helicopter going full blast with the pressure, no problem. How does that compute? Because he claimed that at the time he already had those problems, those hearing problems. So of course they're all complete nonsense. So that was the story of Bloho back when he was apparently drilling oil. Maybe it's an euphemism, who knows? But I have many more like this. So we're going to get back to our regularly scheduled program. So that was the story of the Meniers and all of the nonsense associated with that. And all of that really ties up to his life as a LARP and as a lolcow, constantly trying to move on to the next excuse, never taking responsibility, which also include him claiming to have a deviated septum because he couldn't breathe. On his videos back in the days when he didn't have any trolls, he would breathe heavy like a pig on camera, and therefore people are like, hey, are you okay? Like, do you have heart problems? Why do you breathe like this? You're just sitting there. Those were the videos where he was sitting in a bathrobe, like a jar, like Dominique Strauss-Kahn, thinking he was sexy. And his excuse was, oh, it's because my nose is deviated. And he went so far as to buy like a weird thing that you put on your nose to make it better, apparently, which he didn't need. He breathes, and he breathed and still breathes heavily because he's fat, he's obese. It's part for the course, it's normal. But of course, he refused to admit that. So he created an umpteenth medical condition to explain that. He also claimed, because at some point when he made the Natty or Not videos, some of the aesthetic bras didn't take too kindly to them, and so I think it was Jeff's side who sent him a message and told him, hey, okay, you want to play it like this? You're like a big strength guy. Why don't we have like a squat competition? Why don't we see how many reps of squat we can both do with 225? I think it was 225. And Bloho, of course, had to opt out because he has no cardio whatsoever. It's the reason why you never see him doing high reps for leg work, is because his heart would explode from all of the cholesterol that he's managed to gather in his plump and fatty body. But back in the days, he actually said that he had a congenital condition that made it so that if he did squats for high reps, his heart would explode. Literally, that's what he claimed. His heart would explode. Condition that somehow magically went away because now he doesn't have it anymore. And the worst part is that he claimed that he learned that because his mom died of it. So he doesn't even respect his own mother. He used his own mother as an excuse. This is despicable. His mother, by the way, from what I know, who is the only person who ever actually loved him. So even if you love the guy, he still treats you like shit, even when you're dead. I mean, his mom must be flipping in her grave so frequently that she's disturbing all of the other corpses and worms around her. It blows the mind. He has no redeemable qualities, none. So that's the odd thing. He also said that he wasn't bald. He isn't bald. P.S. not bald. He claimed that he actually shaved because he wants to be bald. He said, I'm a wannabe bald. Which, if you're bald, all the more power to you, I mean, but I know very few men who want to be bald, who have like a luscious head of hair and who just shave it for the sake of being bald. It's really rare. Plus, you can see from his scalp, he has no hair. It's all smooth, he has no implantation. If he actually let it grow, he would just have like a monk from the back, which would look terrible, but at this point, I mean, maybe it will be an improvement. He could claim that he doesn't get girls because he's a monk. I mean, he went through a Christian crisis, whatever you want to call it, where he pretended that he was reborn through the power of Jesus. So I don't put it beneath him to actually claim something like this. But he went further than that. He said that he had to shave because when his hair grows, he gets psoriasis underneath his scalp. And he also gave a gratuitous and disgusting example of that. He said that he can peel his skin like a snake. I don't know why he thought that was cool to claim, maybe because at the time he pretended to be a reptilian overlord, so he was trying to build up his lore. Funny thing being that now, to this day, you can still see that on the rest of his body he has plenty of hair. So why doesn't he shave that hair if the presence of hair creates psoriasis? Why? Because he can't actually keep up with his own lies. He lies too often. I think I have a better understanding of how many lies he spun than he does. So Bloho, if you need help, I mean, I was going to say send me a message, but you can just send a message to one of your friends. I'm going to read it regardless. So, okay, so that was that. And all of that is an excuse to pretend that he's not so weak and that he's not a wimp, but he is. He has an interesting view on life. For him, as long as he's winning on the internet, then his life is going well. But the second that he's losing on the internet, it's terrible, which is why he deletes comments again. And the reason why, and I didn't mention that, he kept the comment that he claimed was from me on his channel, even though he always deletes troll comments. By the way, I know that some guys will say that it might have been one of his stock accounts because, I mean, I don't put him, again, above him to do that, meaning that he could have just created a stock account for the sake of trolling himself to then pretend that I'm the one trolling him to be able to put me down. But I checked, the stock account is legit, it's an actual person. One thing that was funny, however, and I'm going to get to that, is that he couldn't just stop there, so he had to push the ball, and of course he pushed the ball by pretending to have sex. I'll get to that. But to finish the line here about the menus, it's always an excuse again to not train, and he's always finding new ways to explain why he doesn't progress. He hasn't progressed for many years. So we'll take a few private breaks here, huh? Because I have more things for you guys. So as I said, some things unfolded. I got access to his private messages. And that also led me to researching a little bit more about his upload schedule. And I realized one thing that I'm sure that all of you have realized as well. He gave up on the current events for a short while. And that led to a dramatic drop in views. Drop in views that he said didn't bother him because he doesn't make money off of YouTube anymore. He makes money off of coaching, aka welfare money. So, very recently, he had an uptick of views created directly by the fact that he actually started doing the current event videos again. He just does them under a new name. He started with the breakfast chat and no one cared about that after 2 weeks. Then he did the clients videos and no one cared about that after 2 weeks. So now he's back to the current events to do name drops, which ties directly, as I said, to the video that he made about me, because in this video he claims again to not watch YouTube Fitness, and yet he's able to tell with precise details exactly the facts and the events of the lives of other lifters that they document on their channel. So how? How does that compute? It doesn't. He just spends his entire days on YouTube watching content. And I've actually caught that fat fuck stealing ideas of videos from me, where I'll make a video about a certain topic and 2 days later he'll make the same video with a different title. And he still manages to make a terrible job. Even when he's plagiarizing someone, he still cannot do something proper, which it's something that he's kept up because recently he started actually teaching people how to, access hypertrophy, to which I don't understand why anyone would take advice from the guy, because he has spaghetti arms, he has no muscles to show for, but idiots will stay idiots. So as I said, the link is the direct hint that made me realize that, yeah, he's doing current events again. And not just current events, because with him, there's always a hidden reason why he's doing that. So first off, he made again videos about bodybuilders, blah, blah, blah. And he's so greedy that he made one that got decent views, which for his channel size is shit, like 8,000 views. And he made a second one about the same topic the same day. At this point, go out on the street and panhandle. That would actually represent more dignity than doing that. But he, of course, doesn't care because he has no dignity. He also made several videos reaching out to other people because I think he's realized that at this point, even though the drama videos get him views, it puts him in a dangerous position with YouTube because they don't like it. So now he's reversed the script and he makes videos sucking on people's dicks. So he made videos about Pete Rubbish and commending him about coming clean, even though he himself is taking drugs. He made videos about Clarence Kennedy, for the people who know him, about his stance on anti-doping, which Clarence actually slid into the comments and said something nice about Bloho, To which I don't want people to freak because I don't know Clarence personally, but from what I've seen, this looks like an attempt at future trolling. So Bloho, I'm just letting you know, you might be let down a little bit. And the funny thing too is that via the private messages again, and the episode 10 that I did, I've had a bunch of people reach out to me, people that I thought were friends with Bloho. Like, people that actually on his page have been commenting for years and years, saying nice things. And even some that have seen in his comments talking about me in poor fashion. And I've realized that these guys have been spies from the start, but they're so good that they've been keeping up the LARP for years. To which I don't know what they're up to, I'm not privy to that, but when they're gonna hit, it's going to be delicious, and I hope they share the memes with us. I'll keep you updated if they reach out to me again. I don't know if Clarence is part of the effort or not, but that goes back to the idea of Bloho trying to reach out. He's trying to see who's going to be his friend, because he's desperate for attention. His channel is dying, and the only way out of the darkness is a bigger channel giving him a shout out, which is why those videos are so needed. And the reason why he hates them so much, because I've had a ton of people, big channels, send me messages and telling me, hey, thank you for those videos. I didn't realize that he was such a piece of shit. I gave him a shout out one day. I regret it. I will never do it again. I'm never going to associate with him again. Good job. I'm glad I did that. I'm glad I'm making those videos. And I also had people who follow his advice tell me and regret afterwards, some of which actually went on those character studies and tell me, hey, stop doing that, he's a good person. Coming back 2 weeks afterwards to tell me, oh, I'm sorry, I was wrong, he's a piece of crap. You know why? Because he cannot keep up the act. He mistreats the people that are the closest to him, and that's the reason why he's going to end up alone. So that's that. I'm going to now go back directly to the mens because we have another paragraph to cover. A paragraph which will be concerned about the pull-ups, the black feet, and some of the introduction to the fake Merc that is going to be the biggest part of next week's, or rather next month, sorry for the false hope, episode. But first, I'm going to take a break. And we're back. So before I actually get into that, I went to check to see if I had new stuff for you guys, and I actually do. So within the private messages, I actually saw one thing that was of interest. Apparently, the box that Bloho uses is not a 12-inch box as he claims. It is actually much higher than that. It's between 15 and 18 inches. I couldn't confirm the exact height. And that makes total sense because if you look at the height of the rack next to him, when I went to calculate to match up to see if the claim was legit, it actually made total sense. It makes no sense that the box would be 12 inches if you compare to the holes on his squat rack, which is standard issue. They're all the same size. So he's actually been squatting high, much higher than we thought for a long time, which explains why the discrepancy between his box squat and his normal squat is so high, and why he's such desperately attached to the box squat, because it's the only way for him to squat heavy. As I said in the past, he doesn't have the thoracic extension to get to depth with serious weight on his back. He would just stumble, and therefore he needs the box to push against. So that's one thing. And it was confirmed, as I said recently, because he posted a straight bar 500-pound squat, which I don't know if he used fake weights or not on this one. Even if he did, it's not impressive. Even if he didn't, it's not impressive. Which he did again with the high box that is way above parallel, and he struggled. So how does all of the claims of him squatting 700 match up with that? How does he go from 700 to struggling for one rep of 500 on squat? It makes no sense. So that's the thing. For the people who want to dive deeper into that and you're interested in actually pulling pictures, you can actually measure the mats that he uses for the box squat. You'll realize that he's actually lying about the height. And now, to go directly into the next topic, the responsibility thing. I'm going to be talking about Moon Cookie for a spell. I will reserve a full episode to that person because she's very interesting and she actually gave interviews in the past, so I'm going to be able to dive deeper into that whole aspect of Bloho's life, because he somehow managed to find someone who was as terrible as he was, or at least almost as terrible. But one thing that he did in the past was that people who watch him to troll him. That's 90% of his audience, and it's the reason why people actually tune in for the current events, because he's going to make them laugh with the crazy claims that he does. One thing that he said in the past, as I said, is that people saw that he had black feet and they were wondering what was going on with that, what was up. And they also saw that the walls were black, like blackened walls. And so they asked him, hey, what is going on with your feet? Do you not wash yourself? Why are they black? And he claimed that it was because Moon Cookie didn't clean the apartment, it was her responsibility, and therefore he had to then deep clean. And I said something about the walls. He claimed to have also deep cleaned the wall. I don't know how that works. He has a thing for using big terms that actually mean nothing. But the funny thing is that when you match up the timelines, Moon Cookie was already gone, like for a long time when he claimed that. So he couldn't even take responsibility for that one thing. He couldn't even own up to the fact that he was living in just squalor. He was living like a pig. And he still is, by the way. He said that he was obese also in the past because of his ex-wife. So the only moment where he recognized that he was overweight was to blame it on some poor woman that was breaking her back to take care of him. And he claimed that she disturbed his diet. To which I answer, how are you so weak as a man that you can't actually enforce your own needs? No one is going to push Twinkies into your throat as you sleep. Just because someone buys cookies doesn't mean that you have to eat them. But of course for him, it's a way to push responsibility away and say, oh, it was not my fault, it was someone else, she was a feeder, she had that crazy thing going on. But the problem is that even afterwards, and when they broke up and he was all alone, or he didn't have that bad influence at least, he was still fat. He never managed to cut or to recomp. He also said that he hurt himself, and that was semi-recent, doing ring pull-ups, okay, after listening to someone's advice. So again, keep in mind, this is something that is supposed to be a veteran of the Iron Game. He's supposed to be in it, and he's supposed to have been in it for at least 20 years. He still cannot do 10 strict pull-ups. He still cannot do pull-ups without putting his shoulders. And on top of that, he afterwards blamed the viewer. So some poor guy on his channel that asked nothing was blamed for his shoulder injury because Bloho said that, oh, I was misguided. Like I followed this guy's advice and I got snapped. Which is not the guy's fault. Even if that was true, I mean, if you've been training for a long time and if you coach people, you should be able to recognize bad advice from good advice. But he's completely incapable of doing that. And of course, whatever viewer's identity that was, that guy doesn't exist, of course. He just hurt himself and he tried to blame it on someone else. As I said, the lies catch up to him because he claimed that he can actually lip read, but he can also talk on the phone. And it's interesting because, again, via the private messages, I realized that a lot of the consultation that he does without the camera. Meaning that for the first contact, he usually doesn't use a camera. Which raises the question again, how does he manage to hear anything? How is it possible? It doesn't compute. For the people who are curious too, I tried, and I'm still trying, to get him to give me a consultation on camera, off camera, and I can't seem to, which is funny because isn't that his entire business model, that he's trying to get new clients? So how is it so difficult to get in touch with the guy? I mean, I've been struggling, and I've had people on the case too that can't seem to do it. So, it's interesting too because from what I know, directly from his own mouth, he has spots open, but he doesn't want to fill them. That's a strange business decision. But okay. He also claimed that he was military, then had to spin a lie that got him in trouble, so that's the old fake Merc stuff, which is really just something that went out of control. Again, he spent so many years of his life lying on the internet, on forums, and then on YouTube, that he didn't realize the extent of what he was doing, and he still doesn't. That's the reason why he never apologized. He doesn't understand the harm he's done to people when he claimed to be a veteran and then he sent death threats to them when they actually try to stand up for themselves. But that's a story for a different episode. Because we're actually at the end of this week's episode. I don't want to get into the rest because it's going to eventually devolve is going to devolve. There's too much to talk about. But I can tell you that next week we're going to talk about the fake Merc stuff. We're going to talk about Mike O'Hearn. We're going to talk about Cassidy Campbell, Jeff Cavalier, and Serge Nubray, Rich, the Hodge twins, right back. A lot of good stuff. And as I said before, since I was able to get a direct pipeline to his private conversations, I have now a big archive of posts, of screenshots, of a bunch of things that I'm going to give to you guys, month to month, just tiny bit, just enough, so that he cannot figure where it's coming from. He cannot figure out which platforms I have access to exactly, which is the funniest thing, because he's going to become completely crazy. More crazy than he already is. So I'm going to leave you with that. As I said, keep in mind that the private messages are coming from direct communication that he's having right now, but there's also a lot of things from the past, because there's a lot of posts that he thinks are private because he posted them in 2014 that are littered with racism, with xenophobia, homophobia, all of the good stuff, his politics that he flip-flopped on, so much so that I'm going to have to make a full episode about his politics. But as I said, that's going to be for the next episode. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.